Hey everybody, this is Matt, and in today's video I'm bringing you another deck matchup, this time against Tenyi Swordsoul. So, Tenyi Swordsoul, for some time now has been the second best deck of the format after Branded Despia. I want to say that first happened, right after the Branded stuff was released. It used to be that Prank Kids was the best deck, and then after Branded came out, Prank Kids definitely fell in power level into like third place. And then after the ban list, like it's just final nail in the coffin for Prank Kids. Whereas Sorceral Tenyi, the only thing they lost is the Auroradon Halky Fibrax combo, but they're still a really good deck. They got a Pot of Desires back, right? Remember they used to run Pot of Desires, and then it got limited to one, which it should have. I don't know why people don't understand why Pot of Desires needed to be banned. It's basically Pot of Greed for a lot of decks that are already good, right? Like Sorceral basically treated Pot of Desires like a Pot of Greed. Like there was almost no cost or downside to ever using that card for them, right? But anyway, yeah. So I'm playing Eldlich here in this matchup. Yeah, just a quick peek at my Eldlich deck. I talked about it a little bit in my previous video, my matchup against Brandon Despia. So if you want a few more explanations, check out there. But you can take a look right here what I have. Still a work in progress. It's not finalized. Anyway, so let's get into it. So this is best of three. This was yeah, I won in two games. So let's get started with the first game. I remember, yeah, I lost the die roll, so I do end up going second. So yeah, their opening hand is pretty decent. So is mine. Like neither of our hands are like particularly cracked. Obviously like this Swordswell player has, you know, two of their starting names, right? They have a Pot of Desires, right? They're gonna get a draw two. So yeah, decent hand. I wouldn't say that's their best hand they could possibly have opened, but it is a pretty solid hand. And then of course my hand is pretty solid as well. So let's see what they do. Spoilers: Proud Desires into a draw two. So they drew into Vishuda. So he summons Vishuda. Uses it to go into Monk here. Okay. Moye, reveal Long Range. Make Chisao. Draw and then search. So, I mean, with emergence, like I guess you could search Taya. I don't know. He already uses normal summon, and he already has effect monster on the field, so he can't really like go into Tenyi. So yeah, I mean, solid draw. Like just emergence doesn't really do much here, because he basically has all the monsters he needs. Yeah, so he makes Barone because he doesn't know the matchup. Yeah, very standard. Sets imperm. So he did not search Blackout, right? Um, and if we look into banish pile here, Blackout got banished. Yeah. So I guess maybe what I said before about Sword Souls like banishing 10 cards was basically no cost. I guess sometimes they would banish their own Blackout. I suppose. But I don't know. Like unless if you're not against a back row deck like an Eldlich, Blackout doesn't matter that much because you have other plays you can make. Like you have an Imperm, there's other cards, right? So maybe I got a little lucky here that he banished his Blackout, but I mean he did draw two cards. I think his draws were Ecclesia and Sword Soul Emergence. Didn't do much, but I mean a draw two is always good, right? It's hard to complain against a draw two. So let's see what I draw. So I do draw Eldlich here, and so so from my perspective here, I actually think that his set card is Blackout, right? Because his Chi search was not Blackout, so I have to assume the set card must be Blackout, so I got to take that shit out, right? So I'm gonna use Eldlich to try to snipe this back row. I mean, obviously, if he Barone negates, I revive Eldlich and then run over his Barone, right? So he kind of has to let his back row go here, right? Because I feel like losing Barone is more devastating. So it turns out to be Imperm, which doesn't do much against our deck. But yeah, I'm still going to try to revive Eldlich here. Try to see if I can run over Barone, and that forces the Barone negate, right? So yeah. By the way, that. For those of you who don't know how to deal with like if you're Eldlich, you deal with Sorceral. Opening Eldlich in hand is very useful against Sorceral because of this interaction, right? Let's say that was a blackout set, right? He would basically be required to let it be sent to the graveyard because he can't risk Eldritch coming back and running over Barone because Barone is like his best boss monster, right? Um, Either that or he negates with the Barone, but then Barone gets run over, and then he saves Blackout for, I guess, popping 2 of my back row. I suppose that's something he could have done as well. In this case, it wasn't Blackout, but yeah, having Eldlich in hand against a Barone is very useful because you have 2 ways of threatening Barone. The hand effect and the graveyard effect, both of which threaten Barone, right? And they only have 1 negate. So anyway, so he does negate my graveyard effect. I go ahead and send Elixir. So I have a really solid back row here. So yeah, so let's see what we're going to do, or what's going to happen. So he draws into a Shuna. He tries to use Barone to tag out. I Solemn Strike it. So why do I not Skill Drain? The reason I do not Skill Drain is because I know he has Vishuda in the graveyard. So, if I Skill Drain now, first of all, his Barone will not be destroyed, right? Solemn Strike will straight up kill Barone, right? I want Barone off the field. It's a 3k beater, and Eldlich has 2800 defense, whereas Chi Shao has 2800 attack. So Eldlich can defend against a board without a Barone fairly easily. So I'm going to use Solemn Strike here. But if, let's say, I Skill Drain, he goes into the main phase, he immediately uses Vishuda to bounce Skill Drain. And then Skill Drain is basically done with, right? And then he can go into a new turn combo, right? So I'm actually going to hold Skill Drain until he burns his normal summon, right? So I'm assuming he has a Moye because freaking Swordsoul's players always have Moye, right? And in this case he does. And I'm going to still save Skill Drain for Moye, right? Because Moye is a more important Skill Drain target in my opinion. So yeah, I saw him strike here. I want Barone off the field. I don't want to deal with it anymore. So, alright, goodbye Barone. So at this point, he could either randomly Vishuda one of my back row and then go into his combos, or he could go into his combos and then, if I open flip a floodgate, then he could bounce. Honestly, I think it's better to like, I don't know, knowing that if you're a Swordsoul player, knowing that Eldlich has floodgates, I would hold off on Vishuda. That's me personally, but I have played some Swordsoul players, including at regionals, that they just prematurely bounce a random face down card. And in this case, like, if they bounce Elixir, I chain it. If they bounce Skill Drain, like whatever, it is what it is. If they bounce Trap Trick, I chain to it, right? So 2 of the cards that he can bounce are chainable. So like the bounce will only do anything if it goes against Skill Drain. So in this case, he does go for the normal summon Moya and holds back the Vishuda. And then here's, yeah, so he reveals the Ashuna, and here's where I Skill Drain, right? So that prevents a token. So at this point, now he does Vishuda bounce my Skill Drain, okay? So I think this was the correct play for him. I mean, if you're a Swordsoul player, maybe you want to say, oh, maybe you should randomly bounce a back row. But in this case, he would have had the 1 in 3 snipe Skill Drain, like, to prematurely to bounce it before the Moye, right? So he does have Emergence. He does get the Long Yen. And then he does send Ashuna to the graveyard because he's about to special summon Young. So here's what I do. He's already burned his normal. He's using his Long Ren. So I assume he has no follow-up plays after this, after he makes whatever synchro monster he wants to make with the Long Ren. So I immediately flip Elixir. Why do I do this? Because I want to flip Trap Trick here, right, in this chain. Trap Trick, if you don't know, locks you out of flipping trap cards. So I want to use this Elixir before I'm locked out by Trap Trick, just to get another Eldlich in rotation and to get this Elixir into the graveyard. So next turn that it becomes something else, right? So Chainlink 1 is Long Ren. Chainlink 2 is Elixir. Chainlink 3 is going to be Trap Trick. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to send Torrential and set Torrential Tribute. So what does this do? So basically, this is Chainlink 3, right? So Eldlich is going to hit the field. Long Ren is going to hit the field with the token. And then I can immediately Torrential Tribute, blow out the field, right? So I'm going to take out 4 of his monsters in a token. So that's 5 monsters on his side versus 1 monster on my side. And he'll have 1 card left in hand. Since he's used his normal summon, the only card that he can possibly have left in his hand that could do anything for him would be a Tenyi card, right? He just pitched in a Shuna. He has a banished Vishuda. Does he have an Adhara? Doesn't look like he has an Adhara. So the best case scenario for him is he has Adhara in hand. Although I suppose, yeah. Because he would need to make another monk for his Ashuna to be active, right? So anyway, so this is gonna Eldlich is gonna summon out. This is gonna summon with a token, and then I'm gonna blow up the board. Alright, so at this point, I'm 1 card against 1 card, and it turns out that 1 card is Ecclesia that he cannot use. So Works out for me. On my end phase, I'm going to set an Elixir here. Alright, draw into Extrav. Beautiful, beautiful. Is it Ash Blossom? It is not Ash Blossom. Okay, cool. So, I get a God draw, I get Lord, and I get Goes in Match. Like, what else could you want? Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and attack him, right? Alright, and I've set a bunch of cards. Alright, so he normals Incredible Ecclesia, right? And I immediately flip Goes in Match, okay? Which means that, and here's the thing, I kind of forgot that Ecclesia's effect is quick, right? Because normally the quickness of the effect doesn't come up often, but whatever. For some reason I was thinking like, oh, I flip Goes in Match here, he's locked into light monsters, but then he changed Ecclesia, so that was a brain fart on my part, like this does nothing. So he's going to chain Ecclesia, and the only summon he apparently has is Taya, because he has one Moya in hand, one Moya in the graveyard. Oh, two Moyas in the graveyard? Wait, did I count that right? Yeah, two Moyas in the graveyard. So he has no Moyas in the deck, so Incredible Ecclesia could only bring out Taya, right? But yeah, and Taya, since it's a win, cannot produce a water token because of Goes in Match. So yeah, this game is pretty much Ogre. Like, if he had not drawn this Moya, he would have been able to go into Moya, and then Moya can produce a water token, and then his only option from there would have been a water monster, which is, I assume, Adamancipator Risen, which, like, I would have just flipped Conk on Risen. He would have chained Risen to negate, and I would have chained Skill Drain. So there was no scenario where he wins this game. Like, at this point, even if he did bring out the Moya, like, and he had another worm, like he had a tie, like a worm in hand, it would not have mattered. Like, this game was Ogre. So yeah, I'm just gonna end phase pop this. We're just gonna set this. I can't summon Lord because it goes in, but it doesn't matter because I have a second Eldlich, and he surrenders. So yeah, pretty good game. Maybe you could argue I got a little lucky because he did banish his blackout. He did top deck a Moya when it would have been better off in his deck. I also got a God draw on that third turn. Like, I top deck Extrav, drew into freaking Lord of the Heavenly Prison and goes in. That was an incredible draw. So yeah. Alright, so let's go into game before we go into game 2, let's talk about side decking. So against Swordsoul, what do you want to side deck? So you definitely want to put in Lava Golems because it's likely that they're going to play what is it? Now that they know that you're an Eldlich deck, they might play the long ran Chi or whatever it's called, or Chi Shuin, the synchro long ran, right? Or the Changing, which Changing is really hard for Eldlich to out, right? Lava Golem is a great way to out it. So you want to take out Pot of Dualities. The reason being is that Pot of Duality and Lava Golem are mutually exclusive. Pot of Duality, you cannot special summon the turn you activate Pot of Duality, and Lava Golem is a special summon, so those have to come out. And I want to take another card out. I took out a Dogmatica Punishment. The reason being that against Swordsoul, most of their boss monsters are over 2,500 attack. So you're very seldom, going second, you're very seldom going to be able to even get an Entis target to pop 2 cards. So you might as well take it out. And since you're taking out one copy, might as well take out the second copy. And I put in a third, like a single sphere mode just in case. I mean, most Swordsoul boards end on 2 monsters, not 3. But sometimes they end on 3, right? So I like to take out I'd like to have a single sphere mode just in case, right? That does happen. So this is my side deck. This is what I recommend. It's good to just have that extra attribute possibility, right, of having the single sphere mode. Maybe you can argue you can put in 2 or 3. I mean, there was a time I used to put in 3 sphere modes. I dropped it down to 2. But yeah, like back when Protoss and like you saw more Protoss around, like sphere. I feel like the third monster was more common because they could use Swordsoul Emergence to draw into Protoss, and then Protoss is their third body, right? So sphere mode used to be a lot more. And honestly, like even now, I guess Sphere mode, like up until the Hulk, Aurorodon chain Suiramo is fine because like, if they did go into the Hulk Aurorodon combo, they would have that extra body from Aurorodon. So yeah, so Suiramo is not bad. Even though Swordsoul doesn't put up that much monsters, feel free to if you don't think one is enough, feel free to put in more streamers. But the thing is, what would you have to take out? I don't want to take out D barrier, right? I don't want to take out Gozens or skill drains. You could take out the pots, I suppose, but I like having the draw power. The get out. So I'm testing this in the main deck, but otherwise these would be maybe like Witcher Strike or something. You can feel free to take these out. Ice Dragon's Prison I like to keep because it's one of the outs changing. Get out also outs changing, by the way. So yeah, I felt one Sphere Mode was enough. So anyway, so that's my side deck. Wait, did I save? Hold on, did I save this? I did not save. Okay, yeah. So let's go into game 2 here. All right, so arguably both of us opened really good hands, right? So he opened his pot, I opened my pot. He opened back row clear, right? I opened front row clear, right? And I also opened back row protection. Like he opened 2 worms, I opened a floodgate. Like very good hands for both sides. I would argue my hand is better, but it all really depends on what he draws off Pot of Desires and what he searches off. So let's see what he does. So he's gonna Pot of Desires draw into Longren and Ashuna. Dude, this guy is lucky as hell. Look at this. So he's gonna be able to set up his full board, like including blackout. Like assuming he didn't just banish it, it's gonna be nuts, right? So Ashuna into Monk, Vishuda on the field, normal Moye, make a token. So he goes into the Adamantipator Risen. So why does he go do that first? Because I think he wants to do Ashuna, right? Ashuna, if you don't know, locks you into worm monsters. So he doesn't want to lock himself into worm monsters before he gets the Adamantipator card because it's a rock monster. So makes sense. So Moya's gonna get him a draw. He draws a Taya. Wow. Okay, what a top deck. Ashuna is gonna special Delhara. Now he can make another Synchro 8. Here comes the Chisao. The Chisao is gonna search the blackout. Longran is gonna pitch Taya. It's gonna make the Changing. In my opinion, Changing is more annoying to deal with than the Chisao. Not the Chisao. What's it called? The Qixing Longran, right? This is the Synchro 10 Longran. So as an Eldlich player, if you're a Swordsoul player watching this Changing monster is more annoying to out, right? Because there's very few outs for it, and it becomes a big beefy boy because of its ability. So, and it gets to banish one of my back row every turn. So this motherfucker is at 4100 attack and defense, right? So yeah, burns me 12. So he sets Twin Twisters, Cosmic, Blackout. So right now, Twin Twisters is not live, right? But Cosmic and Blackout are, and as soon as he draws a card for his turn, Twin Twisters will be live. So, maybe we argue, oh, Twin Twisters isn't live. But it doesn't matter in this case because I open Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and if you don't know, Lord of the Heavenly Prison protects back row from destruction, does not protect it from banishing. So you're going to love this turn. So I'm going to top deck here the Eldlich. I'm going to play Extravagance. Luckily, he does not negate it with Adamantipator, and goodbye, field. Yeah, this is why I love Sphere Mode. Like, it's such a good card. It's like, oh, look at all these annoying monsters I have to deal with. This one's gonna banish. It's hard to destroy. This one's gonna negate. I'm just gonna tribute all that shit. Goodbye. Like, that's it. No more having to deal with it. I do leave Monk on the Tenyi, so he does get to get a Vishuda bounce on his turn, but whatever. I'm going to go ahead and use Lord here to protect my back row, and I'm going to set 4 and pass. So my back row is protected. So this Swordsoul player is smart. He's patient and does not prematurely blow Cosmic Cyclone. So let's see what he draws. He draws a second Cosmic Cyclone. So he's going to Vishuda attempt to bounce one of my back row. At this point, because he doesn't have a Moye or any real plays here, like he might as well, right? Try to bounce something. So I'm gonna chain D-Berry, call Synchro. I don't know that he doesn't have plays. He's gonna get the Vishuda back, attack with. So why do I not summon my Heavenly Prison here? Because I know he has Blackout. If I summon Heavenly Prison here, he will pop 2 of my back row. I want to wait until later, right? So I'm gonna Gozen. So The reason I Gozen match here is I want him to um, get rid of one of these bodies. Wait, why did I Gozen match here? I mean, he wasn't going to be locked into Divine Beast, so I don't know why I Gozen match here, but whatever. He changed Cosmic. It ends up not mattering. I forgot. Oh, I think I wanted to Gozen match because I wanted to trigger Lord of the Heavenly Prison to summon itself. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to hold off on Skill Drain and Trap Trick. So yeah, I do summon itself, and I set an Elixir. Why do I not set Pot of Extravagance? Because I don't have any Eldlich traps in rotation, so I just want to get like Eldlich in rotation here. So he's going to immediately Cosmic my set Elixir, which is the right play because I can't chain it, and because by banishing it, it kills my Eldlich engine. So now that Heavenly Prison is no longer protecting my back row, he's going to go ahead and Twin Twisters my back row. So I'm going to chain Trap Trick here. Trap Trick is going to grab my third Elixir, right? So I had to banish an Elixir, and I set an Elixir. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab the Eldlich. So this time, at this point, I know that his Blackout is live, right? So it's just a matter of time before he uses it. So I'm going to link into Dark Charmer because I want to steal his Vishuddha. What's the point of stealing Vishuddha? Just so he doesn't have it. And because, link climbing, right? So Tomb Bodies are going to make a link 2, and then Vishuddha is going to allow me to possibly go to link 3. Because of my Pot of Extrav, I actually don't have access code or Monk of the Tenyi, right? But taking out his Vishuddha is nice, right? And it's just another body. Like 1500 attack plus 1850 attack is greater than 3000 attack. So there was no real reason to keep Sphere Mode. I wanted to do an Xyz rank 10 play, but Gustav Max was managed off Extrav, so I couldn't do that. But yeah, he's gonna immediately Blackout here because he knows I'm gonna just steal Vishuddha. So he's just gonna pop my field. That's fine. I'm gonna grab a Huaquero, revive my Eldlich, swing for 15, and then I'm gonna set Ice Dragon. So Ice Dragon is great because if he top decks a worm and summons it, I'm gonna immediately Ice Dragons and banish whatever worm he summons. I'm gonna banish, right? By banishing something from his graveyard. So he's gonna top deck yet another Cosmic Cyclone. He's gonna play it, won't matter. I'm just gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna steal your Changing, and now I have a 3K body on my field, and yeah, and then he's gonna go ahead and surrender. So, so yeah, I mean, games don't always play out that way. Sometimes, like it does. Like this is part of the reason why I moved Lord of the Heavenly Prison to 3. Having that back row protection against Blackout is so useful. Like, you could deal with Blackout some other time, right? But at least you have your traps live for your opponent's turn. Yeah, still running the triple goes and still running. Am running the triple D barrier, which is amazing. So yeah, that's Tenyi Swordsoul, supposedly the second best deck, but looks like even that has fallen to Eldlich. And I'm like, you can't even necessarily argue that this motherfucker bricked either. Like he drew some pretty solid hands. I guess the only thing he got unlucky was like he banished Blackout in game 1, but still he had 3 interruptions on his turn, right? With a Vishuddha bounce as follow up, and additional Synchro 8, Synchro 10 follow up on the following turn, right? Whereas in game 2, he kind of like put out all his monsters, and then he had no follow up, right? So his hand, he was fine. Like he had good hands both games, so you can't like argue that he bricked. But anyway, yeah, Eldlich best deck, lol. Yeah, it's unfortunate that I had this in the hand here, and I didn't really have a good way to like send it to the graveyard because I wanted to keep all my traps, and like, Heavenly Prison was already protecting my back row from his Blackout, so yeah, I wasn't too worried. Anyway, yeah, hope y'all learned something. Yeah, I'll eventually put out a matchup video for Therion once I figure out what the hell that deck does. Yeah, Therion, ABC Therions are running around, Earth Machine Therions, but until then, good to have Brandon Despia and Tenyi Swordsoul because, in my opinion, those are still the top 2 decks. Even with the new ABC Adventure Therion, I still think it's not quite the level of Brandon Despia and Tenyi Swordsoul yet. So anyway, all right, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.